guys, welcome back to Casually Crafted. My name is Ashley and I forgot to look at what crafty chat number this is, but that's okay. So today I was going to do a normal everything crafty chat video, like whips and finished projects and acquisitions and all that, but I realized that one of my, all of my big works in progress right now is going to take some explaining to do. So I'm going to do just that in this video. So the thing that I have been working on the most, besides all the millions of frogs I've made this month, is my girls' Easter dresses. So for those of you who are new here, about every other year I try to make my daughters their Easter dresses. This year they are 10, 6, and 3 years old. But I don't love sewing, and I don't love making a whole dress out of crochet because that takes forever. So the last time I did make them the whole dress out of crochet, but this year I did not want to do that again. So I wanted to do the tops crocheted and then the bottoms in fabric. But since they're all different ages and have different personality and fashion styles, I decided that the tops are going to be all the yarn's going to be the same and all the fabric's going to be the same, but the design of the top and the dress in general is going to be different for each girl. So towards the beginning of this year I talked about this a little bit because it was in my goals type projects of things to do this year. So I did kind of explain my general thoughts and showed, I think, 3 different yarns that I was going to try to match. So when I went to go to Joann's to pick out some fabric to get started, I was slightly paranoid that I wasn't going to find anything to match those 3 yarns that I was going to bring. So I actually went through a whole bunch of my yarn and picked out 10 different things, maybe even, I don't know, probably about 10 different yarns that I could make work. Some were solid, some were the Karen Skinny Cake that I had originally picked was a striped one. Anyway, because my local Joann's is not very big, so there's not a lot of options, and I was like, if I don't bring lots of yarn options to choose from, what if I don't find anything to match at all and then I'm just left empty-handed? So I came over prepared, and so anyway, I was right that they did not have very many things to choose from. That was what I was picturing in my head for what I wanted. So I will show you what I got as far as fabric goes, and then from there was a few yarns that could have worked with it, which is part of why I got this fabric, because I could have used, I think, 3 different ones, and then I had to decide which one I was going to use. So here is the fabric that I chose. It's got lots of, I'm not sure if the colors are showing just right, but lots of pinks, different shades of pinks, and some yellows, and some almost tealy blues in there. This is an orange almost. I know it's upside down, that's okay. But, so the flowers are a little bigger than I wanted because I do have a 3-year-old, and so I'm not sure how much she'll get on there. But I really liked the colors, and there was another one really similar to this that had slightly different colors. But I went with this one because of the yarns that it matched. So then I had to come home and decide which yarn to use out of the ones that I matched. So also my dilemma was, so for my 10-year-olds, my idea was to make hers basically just out of 2 squares, not granny squares, because that's boring, and then basically sew them up and leave an armhole, and then maybe make a sleeve or whatever depending on how big the squares are, and then however it fits or adjust it to make it fit her, right? But I was having a hard time finding a square pattern that I could use with any yarn, right? So like a lot of just Afghan square patterns are meant to be like 12 inches square, but that's if you use like a 4-weight yarn. Some of the yarns I'm looking at using were like thin. So finally I remembered, I don't know why it took me so long to think of this, that there are blankets out there that are designed from the center out, that are square, that aren't just granny square, that actually have designs and like design elements to them that make them pretty. So the one that came to my mind that I have heard a lot about is like the Phoenix blanket and the Ardith blanket. Those are all by, like, I think her pattern designer name is Hooked by Sunshine or Hooked on Sunshine or something like that. So I went to her Ravelry page and was like going through all of them, and I wanted to find one that looked really good in the middle for this dress, and then I would make it as big as needed following her pattern, you know, to get the size for my 10-year-old. So that is what I did, and I picked it's her doodad, I think is what it's called, doodad pattern, because she has like a whatchamacallit and thingamabob, so she also had a doodad. Anyway, so I purchased that pattern because I figure I can always make a baby blanket out of it eventually if I want to too. Like it's not wasted on that, and it's definitely one that's worth the money because of how detailed and complicated these blanket patterns are. Anyway, so what I did was I took 2 of the yarns that I was debating between, and I started this pattern in both of those because the other girls' dresses will be smaller, one smaller granny squares and one smaller hexagons, and so you're not getting as much color, like the whole color change throughout the yarn. So I started it in both yarns, so it was taking a little while. And then I decided, eventually decided which one. So this first yarn is, and they're both ice yarns, which is kind of coincidence since I've bought from them exactly one time. This one of the ones that was a contender is this Ice Yarns Lorena Colorful. And so this one is thinner, and so that was why I was concerned if I didn't use a pattern like this. So, hold on, I'm running out of room here. So I have the blanket, the fabric, and this is how far I got on that. And I really liked the colors, how it brings out the blue. There's like yellows in here. It brings out these yellows. There's also some like browns and purples in there that I didn't love, but I wasn't loving how you couldn't see the pattern super well. It was a little busy, and since it's thinner yarn, it was taking forever. Okay, so then the other option was this Ice Yarns Magic Cotton Neck, if that's how you say it, I don't know, and this very pink color. So obviously these are very this is a very floppy skein at this point. So it does go from pretty dark, there's some dark right there, pinkish, to this lightish pinkish there. So if you can't tell by the floppiness of this, this is the yarn that I chose to use. So I did, at this point, it's pretty much, it might be the size that I need for the front of her dress, but I want to show you up against the fabric if I can hold it up. So there's this almost salmony corally pink that matches this one pretty good, and then yeah, like these pinks match here pretty good. So the only thing is some of these really dark spots I don't think is in the fabric, but that's okay. So now that you've seen the fabric and what I'm doing, I'll just show you them. Running out of space here. Okay, so here is what I have so far. This is through like round 15 or 17 or something of the blanket, and from this point I think there's like 2 more rows you can do, and then you basically do another repeat of stuff, or something like that. So the reason I picked this pattern over some of the other ones is I really liked this flower part right in the middle, and yeah, so I might need to go a little bit bigger. If so, it'll be another row of like shells and V-stitches, I think, but that might be big enough. But I stopped there because I don't want to use too much yarn if I don't need it, if I don't need to use it up, because I obviously have other dresses to make. So I stopped there for now, and I will have to do a back panel, since it's kind of complicated and time consuming and kind of a yarn eater on some of the rows. I think I'll just do like a simple square on the back. I haven't decided what kind of square to do on the back. I don't want to do a granny square. If I do, it would be like a solid granny square, and then hopefully make it the same size. We'll see. Yeah, so this one is for my 10-year-old, and I think it's pretty. So the next ones are, the next one I did was for my 3-year-old, because she's littler and I wanted little granny squares for hers. So I have lots of ends to weave in, and everything, nothing's put together like at all. It's all just stuck with stitch markers, and this is not necessarily the color order they're going to be in. I was just putting it together to see if it would fit her, and then we're going to go from there. So I'll show you. The squares are by Blossom Crochet. It's a tutorial here on YouTube. She does do, I think, like a yellow in the middle, then the petal color, and then these 2 last rows are in a color, I think. I did modify, and it's in UK terms, but I did modify it to have this be one. Oh wait. Obviously it's all one color. It's all one skein of yarn, but what I was doing was to still get the contrast so you can see the flower. Was I did these 2 rows, the tiny row and the petals, in one skein, and then pulled from a different skein where it was in a different part of the color pattern to do the other 2 rows. So there are some, like this one is less noticeable because just the way it worked out with the 2 skeins were similar enough in color. That one too, and then that one has a little more contrast. So I will probably adjust. I think I had planned on doing it like this one in the middle. I don't know. I did just make 4 more because I think I want to make kind of like the shoulder part. I think I want to put those right here, so 2 here and 2 here to make like shoulder straps. But I will need to try that on her and see how that fits, as far as like if that would be too thick or whatever. This does fit around her a little bit loosely like this, so I'm hoping as I push these together, you know, like actually connect them, that it'll fit her a little more snugly, but not too snug, because when I did it with just 5, it was too tight. So I think 6 is the right number for her. So that's hers so far, and I haven't decided how I'm joining them together, if I'm going to use this yarn to join them together or like a white. I don't know. So like I said, I'm just kind of making these up as I go, pretty much. So for my 6-year-old, I wanted to do hers out of hexagons, and my first plan was to do like an African flower hexagon, and I was doing it the same way as that, the granny square, where I was taking from one skein for like the petal part, and then the next skein for like the finishing off into a hexagon part. And it just, I made like 5, and I was like, I don't like these. I don't like the way they're turning out. I don't know if it was the pattern I was using or if it was how I was using the pattern, because I wasn't doing color changes like they suggested, so I was like slip stitching into spots instead of cutting and joining, and I just didn't like them, so I had to go find a different hexagon pattern to use. So this one is the pattern is not by her, but she did the tutorial. Hooked by Robin is who did it, and she does do US terms even though she has a British accent. So this one does do a lot of color changes, pretty much almost every row, but I did the same thing. I decided, here, I'll just show you. Why am I talking when I could show you? So here are some of the hexagons. Lots of ends again. So hers, you have like one color, and then there's like lots of different colors. I can't even like explain it. But I start this first part. So round 2 on here is like a 2-part round. Like you do part 1 of round 2 in one color, and then you join with a different color and do the second part of round 2 in that color, and then round 3 and round 4, whatever. So I did round 1 and then the first half of round 2 with one skein, and then the second half of round 2 with the other skein, and round 3, and then I'm pretty sure this is round 4. I think there's only 4 technical total rounds. So what I do is I leave this, I don't cut this one, I just leave it kind of like a loop on the back, and then I pull when I go to do this, wherever it is. I don't know if you can see. So it's not necessarily pretty on the back. Yeah, it's not too bad. But I would just pull through into one of the spaces with wherever the yarn was left off, so that I wouldn't have a million ends to weave in. There's still lots of ends. Like, there's still ends everywhere. But, and then, so I was making all these hexagons, and I didn't have like a for sure plan of how I'm going to put them together. So I just the other day started just laying them out. And again, these are not in the order they're gonna be. They're like random colors next to each other. Like I'll plan out the colors better when I put it together. I just want to get the shape decided. Like the general idea of the construction decided. So this is what I have so far. This is gonna maybe be a sleeve, like go over the shoulder here, and then this is like the neckline. And then I wanted to do I want to try this on her obviously before I keep going, because I originally did have another row of hexagons here, but I took them to make the sleeve part because I wasn't sure how that part was going to work. So I do have an opening here for her arm, and then obviously an opening for the neck, the head, and stuff. But I do need to try this on her before I decide how many more I need. If this, I do think I want it longer than this. I don't want the dress to start quite so high. So I do probably need to make 1, 2, 3, 6 more, I think, hexagons. So hopefully I have all the enough yarn for that. So yeah, so hers I haven't tried on her at all. The 3-year-olds I tried on that part. The 10-year-old I keep putting it up next to her, but I can't really try it on until I have the back panel started. So yeah, that's my progress so far. I really do need to weave in ends, but I don't want to. I am really bad at weaving in ends as I go, especially with something like this where I just want to figure out what I'm doing. I don't want to take the time to weave in all the ends, which is a good thing because I did reuse all the yarn that I used on the African flower hexagons. When I started these, I just basically started frogging those and making these at the same time, like using it as I was frogging it. So I'm like losing my voice from talking so much. But yeah, so let me know what you think, and if you have any advice on any of these things, because like I said, I'm not a designer. I'm making this up as I go, and it is February 28th, and Easter is March 31st, so I have about a month to finish figuring these out. So hopefully it all works out and that they turn out super cute and that my kids don't hate them, because that would be really sad. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have stuck around this long, I'm glad I didn't do a full Crafty Chat video because that took forever. And anyway, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye guys.